In the Days of Missions and Ranchos by Carol Domblewski. Table of Contents. New Spain, page 3. The Missions, page 6. The Ranchos, page 12. New Spain. In the 1500s, Spain sent out ships to explore the world for gold and to claim land. Over time, Spain claimed land in what is now Mexico, California, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. Spain ruled a huge empire extending over these lands. The empire was called New Spain. Spain hoped to get rich from its empire. It wanted gold and other riches, but so did other countries. The other countries included Britain, Russia, and France. All three countries wanted Spain's land and riches, but Spain had a plan to keep its lands safe. Spain's plan was simple. It would send people to the lands of New Spain. Spain hoped that the people, called settlers, would protect their lands. Over time, Spain sent over 5,000 settlers to these lands. Spain settled the area in 3 ways. First, it set up forts where soldiers were stationed. Their main job was to keep American Indians from taking their land back. These forts, called presidios, kept the newly settled towns safe. Spain also set up pueblos, which were towns. Over time, some of these towns prospered and grew into cities. Finally, Spain built missions, or churches. The missions were a place for settlers to practice their faith. The missions also tried to spread the Catholic faith among the local American Indians. This is the Presidio in Santa Barbara. This is the Serra Mission in San Diego today. The missions. The missions were an important part of life in New Spain. Settlers went there for special celebrations and feasts. They worked for the missions too. The missions had schools for the children. Spain set up 21 missions in California alone. The leader and founder of many of the missions in California was Father Junipero Serra. He was able to convince many American Indians to join his church. Who was Father Junipero Serra? Father Junipero Serra was born in Spain in 1713. At 16, he entered the Franciscan Order of the Catholic Church. He worked in Mexico for a number of years, but he is best known for founding missions in California. He was a fiery speaker and worked hard to keep the missions running. He died at age 70. At first, the missions were just a few buildings. Why did the American Indians go to the missions? Some were curious. Some liked the Spanish way of life, and some were promised land. Others came because the missions gave them food and water. A few came to get the gifts of beads and cloth that the missions gave them. The Spanish also forced some Indians to go to the missions. Over time, many American Indians became residents of the missions and began to view the missions as their home. Missions grew into communities. The Indians were taught skills, such as how to make candles and iron tools. They learned to tend the animals, and they worked in the fields. In fact, American Indians did all the hard work at the missions. Many were treated like slaves. As the years went by, the missions grew larger. They took more land away from the local Indians. Soon, the missions dominated large areas. The Indians who lived and worked at the missions for years gradually became well acquainted with the Spanish way of life. Some adapted by joining the Catholic Church. However, others did not want to live like the Spanish. These Indians tried to escape. The missions did not last long, though. Changes soon came to the West. Some American Indians living at the missions acknowledged and accepted the Spanish way of life. The people who moved to California to farm its rich land were hostile to continuing the Spanish way of life. Settlers from the East began to move to California to farm the rich land there. They claimed much of the mission lands. The settlers brought their own way of life with them. They did not want to learn about the Spanish way of life. They did not want to live like the Spanish. They also did not want to become Catholic. At the same time, Spain was losing much of its power. Mexico became free of Spain in 1821. After that, the missions no longer had a role to play. Vaqueros worked the first ranches in California. The ranchos. When the Spanish came to California to claim the land, they brought cattle with them. They wanted to raise cattle for food. The time and place turned out to be just right for raising cattle. There were vast lands for the cattle to roam. There was plenty of rich grass to eat and lots of water to drink. There were no fences. The herds flourished. When Mexico won independence from Spain, the mission system ended. Spain sent the people at the missions home. But what became of all the mission lands and the cattle? Mexico gave the mission lands to a few lucky people who became rich as a result. In California, their large homes covering huge, sprawling lands were called ranchos. One rancho could contain 50,000 acres or more. Life on the ranchos was almost all about cattle. The cattle gave the ranchers beef, hides, and other items, such as soap and candles. The ranchers traded the hides for goods they did not make on the ranch. Local people did the real work on the ranch. They herded the cows, they put up the buildings, and they cooked and cleaned for the owners. Only a few people could own a rancho. By 1848, the great ranchos began to decline. A war with Mexico had brought big changes. The West had become part of the United States. Hunters, traders, miners, and other settlers poured into the West. The Spanish way of life faded, and the large ranchos slowly disappeared. But the Spanish left their mark on the West for years and years to come. Miners came to find gold in California. Responding. Target vocabulary. Word builder. The opposite of the word hostile is friendly. Think of some words that are the opposite of the words below and write them on the chart. Write about it. Text to self. Suppose you had lived in a mission long ago. What might you like about living there? What might you not like about living there? Write a paragraph describing the good and bad aspects of mission life. Use 3 words from your chart in your paragraph. Target vocabulary. Acknowledged, acquainted, decline, dominated, extending, flourished, hostile, prospered, resident, sprawling. Target strategy. Summarize. Briefly tell the important parts of the text in your own words. Word teaser. This word means spread out.